Baltimore, 10 a.m. Sunlight filtered through the frosted glass of a third-floor apartment. Inside a compact, meticulously kept space, clean to the point of austerity, Eleanor Grant placed a cup of tea on the table, adjusted a worn wool scarf around her shoulders, and sat down across from the check she had just received. She had lived there for 28 years alone, ever since her husband, Colonel Samuel Grant, passed away from lung cancer, the result of chemical exposure in Southeast Asia. Eleanor never complained. She had once been a military software engineer, designing systems no one could publicly name. But since retiring, she hadn't sought recognition, except from her government. And that was the irony. The government had forgotten her. For 12 years, Eleanor quietly sent letters, filed appeals, and submitted records. She asked for nothing more than one simple thing: the pension correction her husband should have received while alive. They said the records were lost. She sent them again. They said the data was unclear. She proved every line. No shouting, no lawyers, just military discipline, silent and resolute. And today, her perseverance paid off. A check for $218,463.55, Backpay, and a special compensation adjustment. Kayla said nothing more. She stood up, turned, and opened the drawer next to her, where the heavy-duty shredder sat humming softly, waiting. Its mechanical whir rose like a warning, yet no one around understood what was about to happen. Rip. Churn. Whir. The Department of Defense check. Over $200,000, 12 years of persistence, the final validation of a life devoted to service, was now shredded into confetti. No verification, no supervisor alert, no hotline call to the federal check verification, only a feeling, and a decision made coldly under the shield of policy. Eleanor stood silently. She didn't shout. She didn't bang on the glass. She simply watched as the last corner of the check disappeared into the blades. Inside, she didn't feel rage or shock. She felt emptiness, the kind that follows betrayal by something you trusted far too long. Kayla turned around, voice detached. "I'm sorry, but per bank policy, we are required to destroy any payment instrument that shows irregularities and fails immediate verification." Then, with a careless shrug, "If it was real, you can request a reissue from the issuer. But next time, please make sure everything's in order before bringing something like this." The lobby went silent. Other customers glanced over. A security guard hesitated a few steps away, unsure whether to intervene or disappear. Eleanor didn't flinch. She calmly collected her remaining documents, her VA ID, the confirmation letter, and the military pay statement. She placed them carefully back into her bag, zipped it, then looked at Kayla directly. Her voice was low, even, without a trace of tremble. "You didn't just destroy a check. You destroyed the only formal acknowledgment my husband, a colonel who served this country for 29 years, ever left behind for me." Kayla opened her mouth to reply, but Eleanor gently raised a hand, not in protest, but in quiet finality. "I understand. This is how your system says thank you." She turned. No one stopped her. Even the branch manager, who had finally stepped out of his office, could only watch as she passed by. The glass doors opened with a hiss. Sunlight touched her silver hair as she stepped into the street. Her posture was straight, shoulders squared, but her hands held nothing. Across the street, Eleanor sat on a park bench. She set her bag beside her, pulled out her old flip phone, scrolled through contacts to a number that had sat there for 10 years, never dialed, but never deleted. A number tied to a promise, made by a man who once said, "If the system ever fails you, don't write, don't email, just call me." 3 words: the system broke. Major General Hector Morales, now the Deputy Inspector General at the Department of Defense. An old friend, a debt unpaid. Eleanor didn't hesitate. She pressed call. The call rang once. It was picked up immediately. No screening, no delay. A composed male voice answered. Office of the Deputy Inspector General, Department of Defense. How can I help you? Eleanor didn't explain herself. This is Eleanor Grant. I need to speak directly with General Morales. It's urgent. Authorization code, Ghost Protocol Delta 9. A pause, then rapid typing. Hold, please. Seconds later, a familiar voice came through. Calm, resolute, unmistakably military. Eleanor, are you okay? No, she replied flatly. I was publicly humiliated at First Horizon Bank. My check from the DOD was shredded. No call, no verification. They assumed I was a fraud. No breathy apologies. No sympathy platitudes. Just silence. Then, a voice like a steel trigger being pulled. Which branch? Lexington Avenue, Baltimore. Name of employee? Kayla Torres. Supervisor? Showed up after it was done. Didn't intervene. Issuing agency? U.S. Department of Defense, Pension Correction Unit. Do you have your documents? All of them. Intact. Morales didn't say, I'm sorry. He didn't need to. Instead, he uttered 4 words. Stay there. Don't move. 12 minutes later. No sirens, no warning. Just 2 unmarked black sedans glided to a stop outside the bank. 4 people emerged. 3 men, 1 woman. Plain suits. Controlled steps. The kind of arrival that didn't announce itself, because it didn't need to. The lead agent, tall and sharp-eyed, approached the glass doors. She flashed a gold badge. Special Agent Karen DeWitt, Department of Defense Banking Oversight. Beside her, a man added, Special Agent Monroe, Office of Military Financial Integrity. The other 2 took up discreet positions near the entrance. Firm, silent, watchful. Inside, Kayla was mid-conversation with her manager, confidently recounting her due diligence. I followed procedure. The check seemed off, paper felt wrong. I was protecting the bank. Kayla Torres? Kayla turned, startled. We're conducting an emergency audit into the destruction of a U.S. Treasury-issued payment instrument. You are not under arrest, but you are the subject of a federal inquiry. Please come with us. Then to the manager. Mr. Henderson? We need 1 hour's worth of CCTV, the branch's check handling policy, training logs, and the names of all staff present during the incident at Window 4. The bank lobby fell dead silent. Nearby customers began filming. Across the street, Eleanor remained seated, hands folded gently, posture still upright. She didn't need to go back inside. Her silence had already summoned a reckoning. 1 step at a time, 1 agent at a time, 1 truth at a time. Theme of this part. When a small system wrongs the right person, the larger system awakens. In a world of cold procedure, it's not noise that brings justice. It's the calm of those who know exactly which door to knock on. Inside a small conference room at the bank, Kayla Torres sat across from Special Agent Monroe, a man whose eyes hadn't blinked once in the first 20 minutes of questioning. Her initial confidence was gone. She no longer clung to the word policy like a life raft, because everything starts to unravel once exposed to real scrutiny. How exactly did you verify the check? I used the check image database. Did you inform your branch manager? No, I didn't think I needed to. Did you call the Federal Verification Hotline? No, but the check looked strange, Monroe repeated. Do you realize how many official Treasury checks are printed on unique paper stock by the military's government press? And what gives you the authority to determine strangeness without formal training? I thought I was doing the right thing, Kayla whispered. Thoughts aren't policy. Destroying a federal payment instrument without following procedure can be a criminal offense. Kayla began to shake. In another room, branch manager Douglas Henderson was facing Agent DeWitt and faring no better. Do you routinely review transactions over $100,000? Usually, yes, but I trust my team. And that trust allows them to shred federal instruments at the counter without escalation? No, I didn't know she had done that. DeWitt lowered her pen, looked him directly in the eye. Our concern isn't just the teller's decision. It's that the system allowed it to happen. No checks, no balance, no correction. Henderson said nothing. His face turned pale. Back in her room, Agent Monroe finished typing. Then he asked Kayla one final question. Honestly, why didn't you believe the check was real? A long silence. Then, she just looked so ordinary. No one that old walks in with over $200,000. Monroe typed his final note. Official cause of action. Uncontrolled subjective bias driven by appearance and assumption. Lessons for service systems. Drawn from the investigation. A process means nothing if applied by untrained hands. A checklist without understanding is just a bomb waiting for a trigger. Fear is never a valid excuse to harm others. Kayla didn't act out of duty. She acted out of fear, and it made a rightful citizen look like a criminal. A system without humanity is just a machine with sharp edges. Eleanor didn't ask for kindness. She asked for recognition as a citizen, following every rule. Every service organization should ask itself, what if that was my mother? If that question makes your training feel insufficient, then it is. Outside, Eleanor still sat quietly. She didn't demand a lawsuit. She didn't seek revenge. She didn't raise her voice. Justice was coming, not in noise, but in form, in action, and in shame. No press, no applause, just a memo sent from First Horizon's headquarters to every East Coast branch. Effective immediately, all handling of federal payment instruments is suspended pending retraining and audit. Lexington Avenue branch is under emergency investigation by federal authorities. Kayla Torres was escorted out the back door, not in cuffs, but with her eyes to the ground. Next to her, Agent Monroe walked in silence. He didn't look down on her. He didn't pity her. He was just doing his job, escorting someone who had just learned the most expensive lesson of her life. At the exit, Eleanor Grant was still sitting on the bench, not waiting, but as if she knew the story wasn't finished until their eyes met again. Kayla saw her, tried to look away, but Eleanor stood. No anger, no lectures, just one quiet sentence, sharp as a scalpel, soft as a whisper. Next time you doubt someone because they don't fit your idea of wealth, ask yourself this instead. Are you looking at them, or just at the hole in your own heart? Kayla didn't answer. She simply cried. Douglas Henderson, the branch manager, didn't walk away as quietly. He was summoned to regional headquarters. His promotion was frozen indefinitely. The internal report cited negligent oversight, failure to enforce protocol, and poor post-incident response. No one at the branch remembered what Eleanor wore, but everyone remembered the day the federal agents shut the place down. The cost of prejudice. Hard truths. Prejudice doesn't make noise, but it leaves scars. Kayla lost her job not for breaking a rule, but for judging someone based on nothing. Dignity isn't measured by age or clothing. Eleanor didn't ask for charity. She asked to be treated as any other citizen presenting valid documents. Silence is not weakness. When Eleanor didn't yell, they assumed she had no power. But her composure brought down the entire branch. Destroying a check is a mistake. Dismissing a person is a moral failure. Later that evening, Eleanor received a call from General Morales. Eleanor, the bank has completed the wire transfer. The funds are in your account, and a full report has been submitted to the State Oversight Committee. And the girl? Eleanor asked. Suspended immediately. But I heard she resigned. No one forced her. The lesson may have reached her the hard way. Eleanor said nothing. She looked out her window. The wind blew softly against a photograph on the shelf. She and Samuel in uniform, hand in hand, eyes on the horizon. "See that, Sam?" she whispered. "We didn't disappear. They just forgot. And today, they had to remember." The next morning, Baltimore was brisk and cool. Eleanor Grant poured herself a cup of tea and set it down on the old wooden table by the window, where she often read, wrote letters, and watched the sunlight stretch across the floor. Her bank account now held the full amount. A printed apology letter from the bank's regional headquarters had arrived, on official letterhead, stamped, signed, and marked from executive leadership. It read, "We were wrong, not only in procedure, but in principle. Thank you for not raising your voice, so we could hear our mistake more clearly." Eleanor folded the letter and placed it in a wooden box, the same box that held Samuel's old war letters, yellowed by time but untouched in reverence. That afternoon, Eleanor walked to the post office with a small bag in hand. She mailed a package. Inside was a full written account of the incident, along with a handwritten letter, addressed to the Frontline Employee Training Center of the bank. In the letter, she wrote, "I don't seek punishment. I only hope that those labeled as customer experience specialists will be taught the one thing that matters most, that the person in front of them, no matter how quiet, how old, how unassuming, has a story, and sometimes that story carries more weight than your entire user manual. Please teach them that, before you teach them how to scan a check." That evening, in her apartment, Eleanor opened the safe. She pulled out a sealed envelope, the one Samuel left behind, untouched all these years, labeled, "Only open when you feel you've won something, not against someone, but against time." She opened it. Inside was a single handwritten line. "Dignity is never a gift. It's what you keep, even when the world tries to take it from you." She folded the letter, smiled faintly. There were no headlines, no standing ovation, no documentaries, only an old woman who held on to her dignity and reminded a vast, cold system that no one is invisible if they know how to stand. Final message. A check is just money, but the way it was torn and how Eleanor stood afterward, that was valuable. A good society is not built on flawless policy, but on the people who uphold it with compassion. And sometimes, justice doesn't arrive with a gavel. It walks in quietly, with a name and a memory you can't forget.